Looking for top-down fun which will not ruin you? Mazda MX-5 is always the answer, but if you can spend just a bit more and you want a modern interpretation of classic car design, then Fiat 124 Spider should be on your radar. 124 Spider, despite old-school design, is in fact a Mazda MX-5 with Fiat's 1.4 multi-air engine. We'll get to the engine later. Now let's focus on the design, which takes inspiration from the original Fiat 124 Spider from the 1970s. By the way, the original Fiat also came, among others, with a 1.4 engine. At first there was talk about turning the MX-5 into an Alfa Romeo Spider, but Alfa is bigger and more expensive, so Fiat got lucky, and the new car was launched on 50th anniversary of the original 124 Spider. In the front, the headlights are pushed back behind the trapezoid grille, the bonnet ends sharply, the boot lid falls between bulging wheel arches, lights are wide. Wheel arches are also clearly marked from the side. Beautiful car 50 years ago and now. As far as exterior goes, Fiat 124 Spider clearly differs from Mazda MX-5. It seems much bigger, less compressed. But inside... Yikes! Oh. It's just as cramped as MX-5 ND. My daily driver is a third-generation MX-5 and I wouldn't change it for the new one. I applaud mass reduction and smaller dimensions, but in everyday situation a roadster is just a car which has to offer some basic creature comforts. And for me this means having cup holders which do not hit my passenger's knee. But let's forget about these tiny little faults and focus on what's really important here, and that's the top-down driving pleasure. 124 Spider does not disappoint in this department because, after all, it's an MX-5, the world best-selling roadster. You can open and close the roof in a matter of seconds. You don't believe me? Here it goes. Okay, maybe I'm going just a wee bit too fast. There we go. It's nice and closed. So, with the roof up, I can actually hear a bit more engine noise. And perhaps a squeaking noise from the back. We'll get to that in a moment. But I have a suspicion this car, well, either it's the engine or it could have a so-called sound symposer, that kind of little box with a membrane inside feeding the sound into the cabin. I asked Fiat Chrysler Automobile Poland, they are not sure. They sent out a question to Turin. I'll let you know when I find out. Now, enough of talking about the sound. Let's get back to top-down driving. Bah! Brilliant. Unlike the MX-5, which has to be revved high to get the best out of it, 124 Spider gets going from as low as 3000 revs. As long as you ignore the Eco Nanny, which tells you to stay one gear too high, you'll always have enough power under your right foot. Of course, if you like high-revving Japanese motoring, you'll hate the Fiat, but I can appreciate this relaxed Italian style, especially since 124 Spider is somewhat softer than the MX-5. In a way, I feel like in my MX-5 NC, this could be a daily driver. If not for a few downsides. First of all, the gearbox. It's not as precise as in the Mazda MX-5. Now, this could be because this car has done about 10,000 kilometers in media tests, so no judging. Another problem, which could again be a result of 10,000 kilometers in media tests, upon hard acceleration, heavy braking and in tight, fast corners, I can hear a distinct, disconcerting squeaking sound from the rear axle. Again, this could have to do with diligent testing by my esteemed colleagues. Thirdly, and this is an MX-5 problem as well, the cockpit is too tight for me. It's a great job Mazda has made a small, tiny, agile sports car that weighs under a ton. Good job. But the problem is that in everyday life I would like to sit comfortably.
and I'm not particularly comfortable in this smaller car. Mazda MX-5 NC is my daily driver. I'm much more comfortable in that car. I would like normal space for my bits and bobs, glove box maybe. I would like normal cup holders, not the removable type that hits my passenger in the knee. And perhaps I would even like a 12-volt socket. Well, there is one, but I would have to go between my passenger's legs. Kinky people, Japanese, don't you think?
Fourth of all, lumbar support is too high. I keep sliding down in my seat and the lumbar support ends up somewhere in the middle of my back rather than on the lower side. Perhaps that's good news for taller drivers, but shorter drivers may feel discomfort.
And lastly, for me a deal breaker in all Mazdas, the infotainment system. I find it counterintuitive, sluggish, and Polish translation is atrocious as far as the sat-nav voice directions are concerned. Let me know, how is it on your local non-English market? How's the translation? I won't even consider buying another Mazda as long as they keep this piece of garbage.
On the plus side, the boot is slightly larger than in the MX-5, 140 instead of 135 liters, so you can pack an extra pair of socks for the weekend. Fiat claims this car will use 6.4 liters of petrol per 100 kilometers combined. Realistically, I'd say a liter and a half more. 124 Spider is marginally slower from 0 to 100 km per hour than a 2-liter MX-5, but with higher torque lowering the rev band, it's more usable. The top-spec Lusso trim, Lusso apparently means luxury in Italian, we have 17-inch alloys which look great, but if roads in your area are not perfect, I'd suggest you talk to your dealer and try to trade them in for 16-inch wheels. It'll also save you money when time comes to buy winter tires. But you want the Lusso trim because of leather upholstery. In an open-top car, it's easier to wipe down leather than wash cloth seats. Fiat 124 Spider prices start at 25 grand for the regular car and 27 for the Lusso, 29 if you take the automatic gearbox. A 2-liter MX-5 starts bang on at 27 grand. I like the way Fiat 124 Spider looks. I also like its slightly laid-back character, but if I want a Fiat, do I really have to buy a Mazda? And how do you like the new interpretation of Fiat 124 Spider? Let me know in the comment section below. Share, rate, subscribe. If you like what I do, support me on Patreon or PayPal. Links also below. Join me for a new review every Friday and watch more of my reviews by clicking links on the screen somewhere around here. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.